Testing. Testing. Hook is got some of that bed head going. I don't know if my hairline is receding. My grandpa on my mom's side had good hair, or if it's just the waviness. It's getting this swoop thing going. I could just get a haircut. I'm looking at my producer. Yeah, you already know. Hook in the vise is, that's the Arex Trout Predator Light. I'm going to tie the losing fly from whenever that was. Yesterday? Experiments continue. Yeah, when was that? Arex TP 605. Oh man, I was gonna tie this in like a white, but these olive dyed grizzly hackles are just staring at me. So part for fouling, anti-fouling purposes. How many of these do I have? And is that right? Yeah, part for anti-fouling, part for we'll go with taper. I don't like them super long. And why I'm pausing when saying we'll go with taper, and it's maybe I'm not 100% set on that. Well, it's just the taper, the swim. I think it wiggles more. I think you get better swim. It looks, you get a little bit of a tighter wobble as opposed to, your fly and then wiggly slopping at the end. Could be some benefits to that. We're not going to explore today. My wheel of flash. I got a bunch of Magnum Flashabou for tying musky bucktails. And I've been putting it in non-musky bucktails. Non-musky flies. Got some leftover super glue on there, so this stuff is actually thick enough to where it's almost like hackle. Like that's laying this way. We're gonna tighten this up too. So it's got some ass to it. That's what I'm trying to say. And I think we're just going to double up on feathers. I was going to put in a little tie bucktail here, but that feels unnecessary. If I don't catch fish, you'll know why. Using GSP. I think this is 100. I went through a tough period of time not long ago. I had ordered 50 spools of Vivas GSP 100. My posture is also sucking. And so I had to, and along with, 50 spools of 150 and 200. So went through all the 150s and the 200s. And man, I had to get rid of it. I had to finish it all, and I did not long ago. Big ups to the variety of folks who said I've been bitching about the GSP copper holographic 100 because it's a nightmare. It splits, and really it catches on my fingers a lot and then fucking breaks and gets wound up on the spool itself. I was going to not put in UV shimmer boo, but that's changing. I'd probably be tying with 140 denier right now, but I'm about to put in some bucktail, and I just end up breaking the 140 a lot. Bucktail. And you know what? Never mind. I just dumped a bunch of bucktail out earlier, trying to make space for. Ooh, this is nice. This is nice bucktail. Arguably the greatest bucktail in the world. I don't know if I'm centered. I'm over it. Got a little comb, plastic comb drilled into the side of my table with a screw drilled into the leg and a wastebasket with some holes drilled in. So this is going to be I'm not going to call it a trout fly. This is going to be a 6 to 7 weight fly. I remember what I was thinking of doing. Yeah, one of the reasons that I really enjoy tying on these TP605s is that they're not, it's the trout predator light. The trout predators are beefy to the point where I get a little concerned for hook penetration. Um, there's really, man, if there is a point and you strip set, it's going to go into a fish mouth. But since most of my tying and guiding, since most of my tying and fishing are related to, or at least with an eye towards guiding, I love catching fish. I love fishing, I should say. I like catching fish. I don't know what it says about me, but I love watching someone just plant a fish and then look back like, this might be a real sick tell. When someone catches a nice fish, plant it with a streamer, and then, they see it, there's a head shake or two, and they just, they blew it. What I do? What? Um. Well, there's, let's say, 10 things you could have done incorrectly, and you did all of them quickly. But mostly it's lifting the rod up. It's just a hard habit to break. You got shout out Marv, the articulate fly, fished with me the last 2 days. Um, and he was talking about trigger time. Using shooting as a metaphor, and it's such a good metaphor because with streamer fishing, you can tie, you can read everything you want. You don't get good at casting until you go out and do it, and you really can't. You have to go out and do it a lot to find those bitey days. You can't get good at strip setting. You can't break your habit until you get a day that gives you enough leeway, enough. You need some bitiness. You need to be able to blow some shots and then keep going and feel what it feels like to get it right. But yeah, when they blow it and then look, fly hits them in the chest, and they look back at me almost every time. It's not this the more experienced guys, sort of in the middle, where big fish are very important. But yeah, it's not like, oh, whatever, I'll get another one at some point. Yeah, even the beginners, it's almost everyone. You get, after a certain point, you know that you're going to get another one, and that sometimes you don't land it, but um, you get that fly in the chest, and it's just this. It's like they don't want to be smiling, like someone with Botox or something, but they can't stop smiling while they're looking back at me and like kind of disappointed with a wet fly in their chest and line everywhere. Dude, that might be my favorite because the other option, which is they don't have it on, they totally missed it, and that kind of sucks because you don't really get the information you need there. Or they land it, and it's like I got to use the net. I gotta fucking kind of a joke. One of my regulars, Brian. He's been out a number of times with me now, and he brought a friend, which is always that always feels really good. A friend was new to it, and man, he was first day of streamer fishing. Dude was on it. Um, and his friend got blown apart. Big fish coming up through the surface on some not skinny water, but not like we're not dredging. We're fishing flies fast. You can see them, and I was like, yeah, dude, that the first handful of follows every day, I get fucking charged up because until then, I mean, I have a good idea, but I haven't fished. It's not like I just went out and did that run. Um, so I have an idea of, we'll say, the right flies, the right speed, retrieve cadences, all that. But I don't know where, we are or we are not onto something until we get the data from the fish. And so those first couple of follows are really important because we can start to make decisions or continue to refine our decision making, I should say. think that's going to work. I mean, I guess we can cut this or not. There we go. So he goes after that blow up through the top. I was like, yeah, it gasses me up. And he was kind of laughing at me like, oh, yeah, sure sounds like it. Because, yeah, I don't think I've ever seen, talking to his buddy, I don't think I've ever seen Ellis get excited. And he's now landed some good fish with me. Got some musky follows. And it's because that moment that, you know, the eat, especially, you got a nice fish on, it's the best time to break rods and for someone to get a hook planted in them, especially when the fish is in. When I net it and it's in, it's like the probability of a rod breaking or someone doing something stupid in the next 10 to 15 seconds, astronomical. And then if it's a nice fish, I need to paddle over. I need to give the net back to them, make sure that their rod's not in the trees. It probably is, because they're just, you know, they're looking down, and it's like, dude, we're still out in the river. So yeah, if it's a nice fish and we're taking a picture, I gotta paddle over into soft water, and that's because you don't want to be holding the fish. It's hard to hold a fish in the net, like in current, and prep for a quick picture. And when you're in that slack water, you know, the big browns they just chill. They are hanging out. So with the UV Flex, if it is getting everywhere, I recommend if I'm using the metal bodkin, which is not all the time, and really it's just because for whatever reason I didn't want to wait to hold the bottle of UV Flex long enough for the resin to actually get to the top. And I don't use the nozzle very much. I'll either use the bodkin, toothpicks, and then when I'm done with the metal bodkin, I just have a big block of foam that I stick it in, and then I'll sometimes hit that with the torch, but it's away from everything, so it doesn't get everywhere. And then with the wood ones, we'll do that next. So TP 605 on the back. I think we're just going double TPs with maybe 3 beads in the middle. I got my musky leaders that have become too short after changing flies. 40-pound nylon coated stainless steel. We'll call it recycling. It's about 4 inches for 3 beads comfortably, and I'll do 4.5 inches if I'm tying a dungeon or something with lead eyes where I'm wrapping around the eyes. And I really like doing that. That's picked up from Kelly's dungeon video. I like doing that for a couple reasons, but longevity of the fly, and not even the eyes spinning, but if you are tying with tension around the eyes, it's not all eyes, but some of those eyes are just softer than others, the metal. And I've I've blown through them while tying them in a handful of times, maybe 2 or 3 times. But it's on the river when things are expanding and the eyes just pop off because the that tie-in point gets too compressed. Mandala. I think it's 1,000 pieces. They come in 4. My nose is whistling. 4 and 5 millimeter. Look, little paper towels hanging around for epoxy spills. We're back. I normally do 2 beads, and as I'm sitting here thinking about why, I think it's because I found that it worked pretty well, and then that's just what I did. So, in an effort to not be completely full of shit all the time, posture, Ellis, use your lazy boy. In an effort to not be full of shit all the time, I like to switch things up and just I don't want to be, oh, this is the right thing because it's what I do, and then it's, well, why do you do it? Because I always did. I kind of like that third piece of wire coming back here, just to sort of square that up, and then I generally put in some wraps. They're not super tight, but it's going to be GSP against nylon coated. Hold it where I want it. And then those 2 materials plus you can kind of get it to be where you want it to be. Now, I think we're going to go magnet. That's not right. Shouldn't be there. We're going to go shorter bucktail fibers. Get up onto the straight part of that. And this is, I'm going to do bucktail fibers and then Marabou and then flash and then UV and then I think Marabou and then bucktail. Can't tell you if that's, if the order of operations there are going to be a big difference. The thought here being I want the bucktail to sort of prop up the marabou. And the reason I put the bucktail in the front on the back hook is I want that bucktail to actually lift from the outside, lift up the marabou, as discussed in my last video. And then I'm not doing then the UV chenille. And relative to these other materials, the UV chenille it moves less and it has more bulk. Like I'll call it standalone bulk. I might even like that phrase a lot. So what it is itself is more massive. It has more volume. It takes up more space than marabou or bucktail. But the UV polar chenille does not have the bulk in the water. I'll come up with something fancy. So standalone bulk. Dynamic bulk feels like that might trigger people. It feels like I'm triggered by saying that. Like, relax, dude, you know? So bucktail and marabou have a higher dynamic bulk than, yeah, I'm not, that can't. Maybe that's it, though. That could have been it right there. Bucktail and marabou have a higher dynamic bulk than UV chenille. So they expand, they move more, they get caught in water more. And so I want those in front of the standalone bulky. And now the cool part about Krennic and the UV Shimmerboo is that you're basically tying long copper UV chenille or gold or silver. Fucking sick. I've been waiting. I have it coming about halfway back to the just getting it kind of messy and tapered. And I clearly could use some new scissors. I'll also say if you're watching, you're just starting to tie streamers, maybe even doing it for a while, whatever. If you are in a hurry or you're getting frustrated with, little things like this, the tie-in points, and is all my flash going to be in the same exactly where I want it? Relax. It's going to be, it'll get redistributed in the water. It's also just, there's so many different factors that are going to be outweighing how perfectly distributed your flash is. I don't know why I'm holding my breath while doing this. Yeah, current speed, you know, how you're casting, how you're retrieving, all that stuff. Those are going to have, dude, these. It has been a hot minute since I've gotten new scissors. I will say after the last two freestyles and some mice, I'm kind of feeling like I want to tie some just, I don't know, some dungeons, some the pounder of trout. I actually do need to tie those. Something simple. Not that this isn't simple, but I don't know. It's like I'm kind of using my brain. I also have lights making me feel like my head's spinning as opposed to the just the overhead light. I did very quietly tie some fucking awesome peanut envies. And when I went to the box for fishing yesterday, you got to get that one with the you got to get that one with the juice on it, the one that's caught fish, the one that's kind of fucked up looking. And one side of the rubber legs are ripped off and you've resharpened the hook like 6 times, barely works, ruins fish. Where are we at with this? Palmarine Marabou. Something that I didn't do for quite some time. It just felt unnecessary. And I kind of like it now. I'll say I like it when I have the time. If I'm tying fish catching flies that look good, I'll just rip it off the stem and put in a couple ties and err on keeping things on top of the hook versus on the bottom, just for that strip on the keel on the strip concept. And on this one, I'm wrapping around forward in front of that GSP so that I can now, so this is in front of my thread. And now, see it? That's going to be locked in. But yeah, there's parts of tying that are just fun to do. See if they work, see what works, see what doesn't. Do more of the stuff that works. That's the idea. You can do that at work. You can do that parenting. I think with parenting, you probably have to wait. I'm going to go get feedback from Trout. With my 5-year-old, well, I'll have to talk with her. Not in a bad way, but I'll have to talk with her therapist in, you know, 15 years. Not because therapy's a bad thing. You go to therapy because you're a healthy individual. All right, get off my back. Stop yelling at me. What? Do more. Another little layer. Some bucktail snuck in there. All right, I'm going to be tying bucktail in anyways. Try to do things with intention. Yeah, with the trout, it's like it's going to take, a couple days of fishing under a variety of circumstances to be like, all right, this is, or sometimes just casting. God, there are a lot of flies that I'm sure would be killer. Oh, and also flash kind of on the top and sides. Whether or not that means anything to the fish, sure. Maybe. It's not 90%, it's not 98% of the eats from brown trout are from underneath or from the side. And I'm pretty sure they're tracking that thing from underneath every time. But what it does that I really I like tying in a lot of flash. You look at I'll talk about the drunk a lot because there's so much cool shit involved in that fly. But you look at that fly and it's pops back and forth. Dude, when people are fishing that fly, it still screws me up. You get a flash? I'm like, what? Is that fish? I'm like, what are you talking? Because they have kind of a different angle while they're standing in the rower seat, sort of looking over the side of the boat. It looks like it's one of the many awesome parts of the fly is that you can't help but remain engaged in your fishing because when you're fishing the thing right, the flash kind of disappears and then reappears. Krennic is also great. It's got that now you see me, now you don't. So this bucktail is not very compressible, which I like for the purposes of what we're doing. But yeah, that tilts and wobbles so much and it's when you're putting a lot of flash in, it's really, I'm guessing it has influence below with just these sort of accent flashes and things of that nature. I'll tell you what, I can see it. Anglers can see it. You, if you're tying and fishing the flies that you tie, can see it. And that's important. Very important. If you're dredging streamers, just nymph or put an indicator on or what, tight line the streamer. I mean, if you're, I don't know, that's none of that's true. um, Whatever. Man, I feel like this might be it. Put like 6 or 7 more unnecessary wraps. Yeah, I was thinking of this in tan, but here we are. I am going to go throw this. We got some water today. And the trip got canceled. Last minute. Not really. The night before, though, which is the first time that I've had a trip get canceled the night before, and I've been kind of relieved just because of my last week, and I have a trip tomorrow, and um, the last 2 days we fished hard. I think this might be awesome. Dude, as soon as it sees my eyes. Have fun doing whatever you're doing. I'll probably do one of these with craft fur, and then just keep talking about going fishing here in a few minutes until the water's gone, and then I'm like, oh, mouse in low water, and then it'll be 1 a.m. and say, all right, next time, right? But for real, yeah, dude, I'm into it. Oh, not there. That's it. That one did it.